Welcome to 7 Days of English Channel.
Most of us don't struggle because we're not smart enough. We struggle because we give up too soon. This story isn't about some genius who always had it all together. It's about Ethan, a regular guy who used to start everything with excitement and quit the moment things got hard. But something changed, and that change, it didn't come from luck or talent or motivation. It came from one choice to keep going when it would have been easier to walk away. If you've ever felt like you're falling behind, like you start strong but lose steam halfway through, maybe what you need isn't a new goal. Maybe you just need this story. Let's begin.
I wake up to the smell of stale coffee brewing in the hallway and the faint sunshine creeping through the blinds. My eyes snap open at 6:30 a.m. Time to get moving. Another day as Ethan, 23, senior computer science student, aspiring programmer, and part-time barista. Okay, maybe aspiring programmer is more honest. I'm enthusiastic about tech, sure. The endless possibilities of new apps, cool gadgets, clever code. But I'll admit it, sometimes I'm more excited about the idea of coding something cool than actually sitting down and coding it. In theory, I should be jumping out of bed, ready to change the world. In practice, I spend the first few minutes arguing with myself over whether breakfast is more important than 5 extra minutes of sleep. Spoiler, breakfast usually wins. I trudge out of bed, untangling myself from the heap of blankets. My apartment is small and messy. Me, my computer desk, and a laundry pile that's turned the chair into a mountain. There's a half-assembled electronics project on the desk. Little blinking lights waiting for code. Notebooks overflowing with scribbled ideas, and 2 empty coffee mugs, because apparently I live on caffeine. I pull on a techie t-shirt, some startup's faded logo, slip my feet into sneakers that definitely need washing, and head out. Outside, it's classic California. Palm trees sway along the sidewalk, a light breeze, and the hum of traffic that never stops, not even on a Saturday. Even here, tech is everywhere. The bus stop has an ad for a coding boot camp. Coffee shops line the street with people on laptops, and random QR codes are pasted on walls for some app. I walk the few blocks to campus. Students bike by. Others jog with headphones. I tap through the morning news on my phone. New AI app takes Silicon Valley by storm. Student raises $1 million for startup. My chest twinges a bit. Great, another reminder that everyone else seems to be sprinting ahead while I'm still at the starting line. I shake it off. Hey, at least I'm moving, right? I reach the Corner Bean, our local coffee shop, just a few minutes before my shift. The line is already out the door. Perfect. I shuffle inside, hit the door chime, and put on my apron. Mr. Kwan, my boss, gives me a nod as he hands me a fresh shot of espresso. Short one today? He asks, eyeing my sleepy face. I smile and shake my head. Long shot, please. I need the kick today. He raises an eyebrow but pours it anyway. First sip clears the fog a bit. Ah, that's the stuff. Work has a familiar rhythm. Brew, froth, serve, repeat. I'm still a little groggy, and every morning feels a bit like assembling IKEA furniture without instructions. I try to focus on each step. Milk here, coffee there, sugar stirred in, but my mind keeps wandering. One second, I'm pouring what I hope is a heart into a latte. It looks more like abstract art today. The next, I'm daydreaming about the app I want to finish. In my head, I picture the notifications popping up on the App Store. Ethan's to-do app goes viral. Fun to imagine. Hard to code. I actually laugh at myself. One day I'll pour the perfect heart, I mutter under my breath, staring at the foam blob. And maybe then I'll think I had it in me all along. My coworker Jazz overhears and snorts. Jazz is the cheerful gal who works evenings. She's a graphic designer by day and can't help making everything artsy. If her latte isn't pretty, she considers the cup cursed. Ethan, maybe your heart's just shy, she teases. Jazz is always full of energy and puns, and I envy that. When she tells me about the branding ideas she has or her new logo sketch, her eyes light up like neon signs. She's the kind of person who dives in and follows through. Meanwhile, I celebrate any code I write that actually runs. Behind the counter, each customer has a story. There's the sleepy biology student who orders a vanilla latte before 8 a.m., knows already in a textbook. The regular in a suit who only drinks black coffee, silently reading the Wall Street Journal. And yes, there's that lady who brings her cat on a leash and somehow always reads War and Peace cover to cover by 9 a.m. One guy behind me today is talking to himself about his laptop issue, something about a compile error or Java. I'm not sure, but I nod and sip my coffee to feel a bit smarter by osmosis. By 8:30, the rush has settled into a hum. I finally get a second to wipe the steam wand with a rag. I glance at the scribbled dates on the door frame. Ethan's shift, with little check marks, like I'm engraving a punch card into the shop. Each mark means I showed up, worked, and survived another day. That might not sound like much to brag about, but with my confidence, I'll take it as a win. I grin, thinking, at least I didn't call in sick. Even if it's not a rocket launch to a dream future, this is honest work. It pays the bills. I wipe my brow, shrug my shoulders, and whisper, one more shift, I guess. Packing up to leave, I take a deep breath of the cool morning air. Exiting the shop always feels a bit like hitting a reset button for me. The city outside is waking up, and it's energizing. I take a slow, deep breath. Damp morning air with a hint of fresh cut grass from the quad, and it zaps some of the leftover fog from my brain. It's a tiny jolt of clarity. I feel ready for whatever comes next. On my phone, there's a new text from my buddy Leo. Game night at my place tonight. You in? Huh, game night? Sure, I text back. I'll bring snacks. Inside, my brain is already picturing Netflix on the couch instead. But Leo thinks I'm always up for these hangouts. Maybe he's right. A little gaming with friends might be good for me. I stuff my apron in the locker, say see you tomorrow to Mr. Kwan, and head off across campus toward my next class. The afternoon sun is gently warming the courtyard. Groups of students lounge on the grass, a frisbee wobbles in the sky, and a couple of runners go by. I hear snatches of conversation. Someone's cribbing last minute for a chemistry exam. Another's chatting about yesterday's code challenge. It's a busy campus, but for a moment I let it wash over me. Maybe this place is a little like us, a mix of chaos and possibility. Slide into data structures class on time. Thank you very much. I get a back row seat, laptop out, notebook open. Professor Naveen starts with a clip about binary trees and heaps. Honestly, it sounds like Captain Kirk speaking Klingon when I'm half asleep. I glance around, most people furiously take notes. I doodle in order traversal in the margin and hope for the best. Once I raise my hand, trying to contribute, but my voice comes out as a squeak. Nice save. Me? The professor asks a question I think I know. I reach for my coffee cup, empty, of course, instead of answering. Focus, Ethan. I scribble some half-coherent code on paper. After class, I feel half proud for not failing completely, half dead inside. These trees and graphs, I get the concept, but what if I'm not cut out for the pressure? I bury that doubt as quickly as it came. Everyone has this at some point, right? I remember what my mom says, brave even when scared. Okay, maybe that's dad she's quoting, but still, I shake my head, deep breath, onward. My stomach rumbles. Time for group study, study. I meet up with my project partners Maya and Alex down in the lab. Maya's there early, tapping away on her laptop like it's the next big thing. She's always multitasking, Today, she's sketching out a volunteer event app design in her sketch notebook, all colors and arrows. She looks up and grins when she sees me. I love her energy. It makes me smile despite myself. Alex is the quiet coding monster of our group. He's already plugged in, typing furiously. Yesterday, he built a demo cryptocurrency wallet just for fun. Meanwhile, I still can't figure out why my button in yesterday's assignment wouldn't stay clicked. Classic me. We sit around a table, laptops open, coffee cups circling like a ritual. The assignment prompt stares back at us. Arrays, hash tables, blah blah. My eyes glaze over at the buzzwords. I clear my throat, trying to sound confident. Okay, maybe we should break down the problem step by step, I suggest. Maya nods without missing a beat. Alex shrugs and already starts typing. I volunteer for what feels like the smallest piece. I'll write the sorting function I offer. Maya smiles. Great, I'll design the UI mockups. Alex says, I'll handle the core algorithm. Actually, speaking up feels slightly better than just staring blankly. We each put on headphones and dive in. My fingers hover over the keys. I open the file for my part of the code. A blank editor frame staring at me. Write something, I tell myself. I type a few lines and suddenly error messages pop up. Of course, the moment a bug appears, I freeze. My hand is hovering, mind blank. I lean back. Everything okay, Ethan? Alex asks, peering over his laptop with a concerned look. I force a smile. Yeah, just that bug. I wave one hand vaguely at the screen. Sounds lame, but I don't want to admit I'm floundering. Alex frowns a bit, but I nod reassuringly. I'll figure it out in a minute, I say, though honestly, I'm not sure if I will. Maya offers me a quick thumbs up, and we all go back to focusing on our parts. The quiet is comforting and painful at once. It means I have to face the code. My mind keeps dragging. I catch myself double-clicking between our code and a browser tab with Netflix recommendations. 5 minutes in, Maya's texting me over the group chat, dinner now? Oops. I cough and delete the tab. Focus, Ethan. But a tiny voice in my head is whispering, maybe one quick break wouldn't hurt. I have to admit, stepping outside is the best idea I've had in a while. I'm going to step out, catch some air, I announce. That sounds less lame than going to cry quietly. Outside, the late afternoon sun is warm on my face. I head to the little quad area by the library. Students are still around, some with guitars, others sprawled with textbooks, a frisbee arcs in the air. I sink onto the grass. For once, I just breathe. Hey, you all right? Maya's voice calls. She has her laptop with her and plops down beside me. She's opened up a fresh document on water bottle. I nod. Just needed a moment, I say, lying a little on the grass. She notices the anxiety still there. You know, she says, pointing at the fluttering frisbee, this coding stuff, it's tough. But remember, we all started somewhere. I spent a week debugging one stupid loop last year before I figured it out. She shrugs, trying to lighten the mood. It's part of the journey, I guess. Everyone's got that story. Even Alex sneaks out to do karaoke when he's stuck. She grins at me. I'm quietly thankful. Yeah, guess so, I mutter. A moment of silence passes. She shows me her app design wireframes on the screen. Really neat stuff, I have to admit. That's awesome, Maya, I say, and I really mean it. She beams. We let the sun and small talk recharge us for a few minutes, then head back. The rest of the lab session and our last class, AI and Society, go by in a blur. Professor Davis, with his wild gestures, is showing a dancing robot demo. The class laughs at the corny moves. I even chuckle. You know, the more he explains it, the more I actually get it. That's a win. Maybe I'm not too far gone. Walking home as the sky turns pink, my brain is tired but warm. I still carry that sliver of Maya's optimism with me. Still, a thought nags at me. Sometimes I do push things off instead of pushing forward. Tonight, my friend Leo is probably waiting for me, and part of me just wants to crash. But I text him back, count me in for game night, bring the snacks. I put my phone away with a sigh. Home at last. My apartment greets me with the familiar hum of my computer and the soft click of my old ceiling fan. My roommate is probably out or asleep on the couch with the TV on low. I toss my backpack on the floor. It's stuffed with textbooks, half-used notebooks, and that remote I should definitely throw out. Dinner time. I'm starving. I grab some instant ramen, quiet chef skills, and toss it in the microwave. While it's heating, my phone buzzes. It's a FaceTime call from Mom. "Hey, Han." She says, all smiles. I plug my phone in and lean against the counter. "Just making dinner, Mom," I say, trying to sound casual. "How's school, sweetheart?" Her eyes are so kind on the screen. I'm tempted to pour my heart out about the code I can't fix or how behind I feel, but I'm not sure she'd want to hear that tonight. "It's good," I say instead, stirring the noodles. "Busy, but good. It feels nice just to talk." She congratulates me on finishing finals and asks about my friends and work. I grin. "All good, Mom. Hey, I started a coding club project." I add that bit proud. She says it sounds great and looks genuinely happy. Before we hang up, she whispers, "I know you've got big dreams. You've always reminded me of your dad. Brave, even when he's scared." Her eyes mist a bit. I smile wider. "Thanks, Mom. Love you." We say goodnight. Her words warm me more than the soup in the microwave. Back at my stove, the ramen is finally ready. Definitely overspiced. I put too much hot sauce, but I don't care. I bring my bowl into the living room and flop down on the couch with the TV as background noise. It's an episode of some sitcom I've seen too many times, but the familiarity is kind of comforting. My mind is still half on my phone. I scroll through social media as I eat. The posts blur into one message. Everyone seems to be making things happen. A classmate got a writing gig, another built a mini robot for fun and posted the video. Leo even posted a pic from last weekend's game night. Meanwhile, I can't even keep a project from rusting on my hard drive. I sigh into my bowl. Time to reflect. My side projects lie around like open tabs in my browser. There's a note-taking app I coded up halfway. The interface is pretty, but I never got the syncing part done. A little 8-bit game sits with only the main character on screen because I lost interest when the enemies got tricky. I have a to-do list web app with a blue button that doesn't even click right. Even that blinking robot kit from my desk, it's just blinking aimlessly because I couldn't wire it together. Each one started with so much excitement, watching a tutorial, coding late into the night, feeling almost a genius for a moment. Then a bug popped up, or I got stuck, or something more urgent came along. I'd tell myself, okay, 1 more hour, and then 5 hours would pass and I'd set it aside. Maybe tomorrow. But somehow, tomorrow never comes. The TV jokes fade behind the guilt in my head. I set the bowl on the side table. The room's quiet, except for the faint hum of my router and the ceiling fan. I open the blinds a little. The moon isn't high yet, but I can see distant city lights and the steady glow of the campus a few miles off. Cars still crawl along the highway. Even at midnight, life here doesn't slow. I wonder if those people see the university glow and think of their own dreams. I suddenly feel very small sitting here with my frozen ramen dreams. My foot taps the floor without me realizing. I close my eyes and listen. The fan whooshes slowly, the hum of the computer, the distant siren, and my own breathing. It's a quiet orchestra of night. I feel tired and a bit scared. Scared that I'm not cutting it, that I'm falling behind. I've been saying it to myself for months. But then I remember I'm lucky to even have these problems. A lot of people my age are far from college and tech, dealing with far bigger stresses. I take a deep breath. I slide off the couch. Enough procrastinating. I return to my desk and look at the mess around me, books open to random pages. The Arduino parts half assembled, a tiny satellite antenna I was excited to program as soon as I got home. I sit down and stare at my phone sitting next to a post-it note on my screen that reads, "Build Space Travel Planner app." I wrote that to myself in high hope a few months ago. Staring at it, I don't delete it or anything. I just tap once to turn it off. No code tonight. I turn off the lamp and leave a small corner light on. The room grows dim. The only light is a sliver of moon from the window and a toy lamp on the bookshelf. The shadows feel okay. What I feel most right now is tired, but also a little hopeful. It sounds dumb, but right now I feel proud. I even survived another day like this. I remember what Maya said, everyone starts somewhere. Hell, maybe this is my start. I promised myself one small thing. Tomorrow, I'll try again. Maybe just one tiny line of code. Maybe an email about getting help on this bug. Baby steps, Ethan. I manage a half smile as I lie down. The fan spins above me, casting a slow circle of light on my ceiling. I know it doesn't solve my problems, but it's steady. I whisper to the ceiling, okay, let's do this again tomorrow. My eyes feel heavy. I'm Ethan, a guy with big dreams, a messy room, and a heart that still thinks it can do something great. That's enough for tonight. I close my eyes and reach for sleep, hoping tomorrow's sunrise brings that spark back. Because in the end, all any of us can do is pick ourselves up and try again, right? Tomorrow, I'll wake up and try to be a little better than I was today. And that's something, at least, the day of the hackathon started off like any other weekend in California. Bright blue sky, the scent of food trucks in the air, and an uncomfortable amount of dudes in startup hoodies bragging about pitch decks. I remember thinking, this is going to be epic. I had no idea. I'd walk out of that building 12 hours later feeling like someone had steamrolled my ego. It was my first big tech competition, the kind of event where students try to build something brilliant in 24 hours and hope they don't fall asleep on their keyboards. Our team? Me, Maya, Alex. And at the last minute, Leo, my game night buddy who knew just enough Python to be dangerous, we called ourselves Bite Me. Hilarious, I know. We were running on caffeine, memes, and optimism. Our project idea? A real-time collaborative study app like Google Docs, but specifically for students to share notes and quiz each other with flashcards. Cool in theory. In practice, a hot mess. The first few hours flew by. Maya sketched a sleek UI. Alex dove into back-end architecture like he was born for it. And Leo, well, he mostly played DJ and kept spirits high. And me? I was in charge of integrating the live sync feature. I told everyone I had a plan. I even pulled up some documentation to sound extra professional. Yeah, it's just a WebSocket connection through Node with event emitters. I said like I'd done it 1,000 times. Truth? I'd only watched a video on it once at double speed. Around hour 6, things started cracking. My sync code wasn't syncing at all. Notes would appear on my screen, but not on anyone else's. Then they'd all show up at once like some haunted echo chamber. Maya tried to help, but her eyes were glazing over. Alex offered to jump in, but I was too stubborn. I've got it, I kept saying. I didn't. I was knee-deep in error logs, trying to fix a bug I didn't even understand. By hour 10, frustration settled in like fog. My code looked like a digital crime scene. Broken functions, variables named out of desperation, and error messages that might as well have been in Greek. The others kept working on their parts, hoping I'd catch up. I kept pretending I wasn't drowning. Eventually, Leo leaned over and whispered, "Hey man, you okay?" I stared at my screen, jaw clenched. "I'm fine." "You sure? You've been copy-pasting from Stack Overflow for like 30 minutes? That stung a little, because it was true. I snapped. I said I'm fine. He raised his hands and backed off. I felt like garbage 5 seconds later. At hour 14, Maya called a team huddle. "We need to decide," she said, her voice calm but tired. "Do we push forward with what we have, or cut the live sync and simplify?" Everyone looked at me. I hated that moment. I hated that the one part I said I could handle, I couldn't. My stomach sank. I wanted to throw my laptop across the room and vanish into the Ethernet. Instead, I muttered, "We can cut it. Just simplify the app and go with local notes." They agreed. No one blamed me, no one yelled, but the silence after that decision hit harder than anything they could have said. The feature was dead. My feature, we finished the rest of the app as best we could. The judges were polite, said our concept was solid, the UI was nice, but they noticed the missing sync function. One even asked, "Did you run into time issues or technical ones?" I smiled and lied, "Mostly time." After the demo, we packed up in silence. I stayed behind to grab my charger, staring at the flickering cursor on my screen. My fingers hovered over the keys. Then I closed the laptop. I didn't even want to look at code anymore. The walk home was cold, literally and emotionally. The fog had rolled in. Typical Bay Area evening. My hoodie wasn't enough, but I didn't care. I let the wind bite my face. Maybe I deserved it. My phone buzzed a few times. Leo checking in, Maya sending a funny meme, probably to lighten the mood. I didn't answer. I just kept walking. That night, I lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling again. Same fan spinning, same hum of the router, but something inside me had shifted. See, before the hackathon, I always believed the hard part was starting. Like, once you started something, a project, a goal, a class, the rest would fall into place if you were passionate and smart. But now I realized that's the easy part. Starting is shiny. Starting gets you compliments. Wow, you're making an app? That's so cool. But finishing, sticking with it when it's 2 a.m. and the code breaks and your ego's in pieces, that's the part no one glamorizes. I kept replaying the day in my head, every bug I gave up on, every shortcut I took, not because I was lazy, but because deep down I never trained myself to push through. The moment it stopped being fun, I pulled back. And I wasn't alone. I'd seen plenty of classmates bounce from one project to the next, always chasing the next new thing. I just didn't want to be that guy anymore. I sat up and grabbed the notepad on my nightstand. It was mostly blank surprise. But I flipped to a clean page and wrote in bold, messy Sharpie letters, "Start, struggle, stick." That was it. That was the new goal. Not just learning new frameworks or building the next hot app. I wanted to train my perseverance muscle, like going to the gym, but for my willpower. It wouldn't be easy. In fact, I knew it would suck sometimes, but I was tired of quitting, tired of unfinished code, tired of feeling like the only thing I ever built was potential. I tore the page out, taped it above my desk, and stared at it like it was my new North Star. Tomorrow, I wouldn't dive into a giant project. I wouldn't try to be a hero. I'd pick something small and finish it. All of it. No matter how boring or frustrating, I didn't know exactly what would come next. But for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like a faker pretending to be a programmer. I felt like someone on the edge of becoming something better. And yeah, that was a pretty decent place to start. The next morning, I woke up and didn't touch my phone. I didn't scroll, didn't check the news, didn't peek at Leo's Instagram story where he was probably still recovering from the hackathon with a giant burrito. Instead, I rolled out of bed. No fanfare, no sunrise epiphany, just a groggy guy in boxers with a mission. Remember that blinking little robot on my desk? The one that looked like a sad R2-D2 on life support? That was going to be my first target. I made a promise. I would fix one problem with it. Just one. Not the whole thing, not redesign it. Just get it to stop blinking like it was trapped in a rave and do something useful. Even if it was just spinning in a circle or making a beep, the second I opened the code file, my brain screamed, "Nope, turn back. This is gonna suck." But I sat there, took a breath, and typed anyway. The first 30 minutes, painful. Nothing worked. I copied a chunk of code from a tutorial and pasted it wrong. Twice. I spent 10 minutes wondering if my USB cable was broken, then realized I never plugged it in. Classic. But around minute 42, something wild happened. It worked. The robot didn't dance or talk or send me a thank you message. It just made a single beep and spun in a circle. One janky little spin. I laughed out loud, like actually embarrassingly laughed in an empty apartment. It felt amazing. Not because the robot did something cool, but because I didn't quit this time. I stayed. I finished. For once. That afternoon, I walked into the coffee shop with a weird bounce in my step. Jazz noticed. "You're glowing," she said, handing me the apron. "New haircut?" "Nope," I grinned. "I got my robot to beep." She paused. "Is that a metaphor or something?" "Not today," I said. "Today, it's literal. I worked the espresso machine like it owed me money. Every drink came out better than usual. I even attempted a heart again. Still looked like a potato, but hey, progress." One customer asked if I was an artist. I told him only in coffee foam and unfinished code. He left a $2 tip. During my break, I pulled out my notebook and wrote, "Beeped robot equals 1 win." That was it. Not dramatic. Not poetic, just a quiet record that I'd shown up and followed through. That night, I did it again. Picked another small task. One I'd been avoiding. This time, it was a school assignment. Just a worksheet on algorithms. Normally, I'd do half, get bored, tell myself I'd finish later, and never touch it again. But this time, I made a rule. No quitting until it was done, even if it took all night. It took 48 minutes, not bad, and when I finished, I didn't feel drained. I felt sharp, like I had more in me. So I added another win to the notebook. The next day, I tackled one of my unfinished app projects, the old note-taking app. I didn't try to fix the whole thing, I just focused on getting the save button to actually work. It was buggy, annoying, and I had to Google the same error 6 different ways, but by the end of the night, it worked. Click, save, click again, still saved. I stared at that little blue button like I just invented the internet. The funny thing is, none of this made me feel like a genius. I wasn't building the next billion-dollar startup, but I was building something me. A version of me who could finish what he started. And that felt better than any coding high I'd ever had. Around day 4 of this little perseverance experiment, Maya noticed something. "You're different lately," she said over lunch. We were sitting on the quad, sandwiches in hand, laptops open but ignored. "Different how?" I asked, chewing a turkey avocado I'd made with actual vegetables for once. "Growth. You're calmer," she said. "More focus, less doom scrolly." I shrugged. I just decided to stop quitting every time something felt hard. She raised an eyebrow. "That sounds like something out of a TED Talk." I laughed. "Yeah, but I'm not on stage. I'm still in the practice round." She nodded. "Well, keep practicing. It suits you." And then, just to keep me humble, my next class handed me a midterm review sheet that made me want to spontaneously combust. Graphs, trees, runtime analysis, the kind of stuff that turned my brain into oatmeal. The old Ethan would have put it off until the night before and then cried into a Red Bull. But new Ethan, he broke it into sections, set timers, and worked through one tiny bit at a time. It wasn't pretty. There were moments I literally talked to my laptop like it owed me rent. But I didn't give up. I just kept going, one block at a time. I even used a sticker chart. I'm not kidding. I found a sheet of gold stars in my junk drawer and started putting one on the wall every time I stuck with something until the end, like I was 5 years old again. But you know what? It worked. Every time I looked up and saw 5 or 6 stars in a row, I felt like a legend. By the end of the week, something even weirder happened. I started wanting to finish things, not because someone told me to, not because of grades or guilt or deadlines, but because it felt good to cross the finish line, like I was earning trust with myself. Every tiny task I saw through became another brick in this weird new foundation I was building. One where I didn't flinch when things got hard. Was I magically cured of all distraction and insecurity? Ha! No! I still zoned out in class sometimes, still forgot my laundry in the washer, still felt that twinge of envy when I saw someone post a sleek new app demo, but now I had this small growing belief that I could get there too, that I didn't need to be brilliant, just stubborn. And for the first time in my life, that actually sounded like enough. The thing about building perseverance that no one warns you about, it gets boring. Like, really boring. All those motivational quotes you see on Instagram, keep pushing, rise and grind, pain is temporary, pride is forever. They make it sound like persistence is this heroic movie montage kind of thing. Rocky Balboa running up the stairs, cue the music. But in reality, it's mostly you sitting alone with a laptop that keeps crashing, a Google Doc full of bugs, and the slow realization that no one's coming to rescue you from the grind. For me, that moment came when I decided to resurrect my old idea, the one I'd started freshman year and abandoned like 6 different times. The Space Travel Planner app. It sounds like a joke, but it was serious-ish. It was supposed to be a quirky travel app that let people plan fantasy vacations to real space destinations, the moon, Mars, Titan, all wrapped in a sleek UI with simulated flight itineraries, travel blogs, and VR mockups, kind of like Orbits meets Star Trek. I came up with it after binge watching Interstellar and eating too much spicy ramen. The idea still made me smile, so I thought, why not finish it? I pulled the old files from the depths of my hard drive and opened them up, and man, it was a mess. Half the code was from frameworks that didn't even exist anymore. The interface looked like it was designed by a bored toddler, and the main page still had the title, Welcome to the Space Butts app. I'd written that as a joke, swore I'd change it later, and never did. Still, I felt ready. I'd been winning small. I had momentum. I thought, this is the perfect next step. Spoiler, it kicked my butt. The first few days were okay. I rewrote the layout, cleaned up some buttons, updated the libraries, felt solid, but then came the tough stuff. Integrating the map API, building a real backend, dealing with time zone conversions for fictional planetary departures. Seriously, don't ask. And suddenly, nothing was working. I'd spend 3 hours trying to get one menu to load properly, another 2 tweaking image sizes, then an entire evening debugging a crash that turned out to be from a semicolon I forgot. A semicolon, that tiny thing, ruined my whole night. There were moments I stared at the screen and thought, why am I even doing this? No one asked for this app. I wasn't getting class credit. It wasn't for a client. This was just me, sitting alone, talking to fake astronauts in my head. The worst day came 2 weeks in. I was trying to create a feature where users could log journal entries for their space adventures. I worked on it for 6 hours. The save function kept deleting instead of saving. Every fix I made broke something else. I hadn't eaten all day. My room smelled like cold pizza. I had bags under my eyes and an attitude to match. And then my laptop froze completely. The screen just locked up. Mouse wouldn't move. Nothing. I screamed like actual primal frustration. Then I slammed the lid shut and dropped my face into my pillow. I lay there for 10 minutes face down doing the whole dramatic I can't do this routine. My brain was screaming at me, give it up, Ethan. You've done enough. No one cares if you finish. Go back to your little robot. At least it beeped. And I wanted to. I really truly did. But then something strange happened. I rolled over, stared at the ceiling, classic me, and saw that Sharpie note still taped above my desk. Start, struggle, stick. I sat up. My heart wasn't pounding. I wasn't inspired. I was tired, but I wasn't quitting. Not this time. I got up, made myself a peanut butter sandwich, because that's the food of tired champions, and came back to the desk. I rebooted the laptop, took a deep breath, and reopened the code. One problem at a time, I told myself. Just fix the delete bug. Don't think about the rest. It took 2 hours, and I had to rewrite an entire function from scratch. But I fixed it. The save button worked. And the next night, I fixed the image bug, then the alignment issue, then the menu crash. Each one chipped away at the mountain. Was it fun? Not really. Was it glamorous? Absolutely not. I was wearing the same hoodie 3 days in a row, and my hair looked like I'd been electrocuted. But I was doing it. I was finally sticking. Maya noticed again. "You look tired," she said one day at lunch. I nodded. "I am, but like proud tired," she added. And yeah, she was right. I started talking more in class, not because I knew all the answers, but because I wasn't scared of being wrong anymore. I even asked Professor Navin about something after class one day. We ended up chatting about edge case testing for 10 minutes. It wasn't thrilling, but I understood it. That felt like a small miracle. At the coffee shop, I started mentoring a new hire, Alex's cousin, actually, and teaching her how to make cappuccinos without overflowing the foam. Mr. Kwan told me I'd grown up a bit, which from him is like a standing ovation. Even Leo, the king of casual, asked, "Dude, are you, grinding or something?" And I told him the truth. Yeah, I think I'm learning how to stick. That weekend, I stayed up late just to finish a new feature in the app, a launch day countdown animation for Mars travelers. When I saw the timer spin down to 0 and the rocket lift off on the screen, I grinned like a maniac. I screen recorded it and sent it to Maya and Leo. Maya replied with a gif of a crowd cheering. Leo sent back, "Bro, this is dope. You built that?" I stared at the message for a while, smiling, not because it was praise, but because this time I'd actually earned it. And the next morning, I added another sticker to the wall, not because I needed it, but because I wanted to remember how far I'd come. It was a Wednesday afternoon when the email hit my inbox like a punch to the gut. Subject line, urgent academic standing review. I was sitting on the floor of the campus library. Yeah, the floor. Halfway through tweaking the last lines of the Mars itinerary on my space travel planner app. I'd been there for hours. Headphones on, deep in the zone. Everything had been clicking lately. The code, my classes, even my part-time job felt manageable. For once, I'd felt like I was keeping it all together. And then that email, I clicked it. Read it once, read it again, then stared blankly at the screen while my heart did jumping jacks in my chest. One of my previous semester grades had been flagged for incomplete submission. Something about a missing final project that I swore I turned in. Apparently, the system showed no record of it. And now, because of the timing and credit requirements, I was at risk of losing my spot in the senior program. My stomach dropped. Everything felt fuzzy. How could this happen? I remembered uploading that stupid file. I remembered waiting for the spinning wheel to confirm. Unless it didn't? Unless the upload failed and I never double-checked? That class had been online. The professor hard to reach. I never followed up. The thought hit me hard. I'd been so focused on personal growth lately, I forgot how fragile progress can feel when real-life setbacks crash into it. I packed up my laptop and walked out of the library in a daze. The sky was overcast. My feet felt like bricks. I wandered to the quad and sat on a bench near the big oak tree, same one I'd chilled under with Maya a few weeks back. This time, I was alone. I stared at my phone, rereading the email. My mind spun, what if they dropped me from the program? What if this ruins my graduation timeline? What if all this effort, all this trying was just me setting myself up for another failure? And just like that, the old voices started creeping in again. See, you still mess up. You're not reliable. You're trying to be someone you're not. Who do you think you're fooling? I hated how fast those thoughts returned. I thought I'd buried them. Turns out they just needed a trigger to crawl back out. I texted Maya, "Hey, you free?" She replied a minute later, "Yeah, coffee shop in 15?" I walked over, heart pounding like I was heading into a court hearing. When I got there, she was already sitting with 2 mugs, black coffee for her, oat milk latte for me. She smiled when she saw me, but the second I sat down, she noticed something was off. "Okay," she said, sipping. "What happened?" I slid my phone across the table and let her read the email. She didn't freak out. She didn't gasp. She just read it calmly, nodded, and looked up at me. "That sucks," she said. I nodded. "Yeah. But we've handled worse," she added. "Have we?" I asked, honestly unsure. She tilted her head. "You fixed your spaghetti robot. You debugged the haunted Mars planner. You survived finals. And you didn't quit. Ethan, this is just another bug." I chuckled weakly. "This one feels like a full system crash." "Okay," she shrugged. "Then we reboot." She was right. Again. But my brain still fought it. "I don't even know how to fix this," I said. "Like, do I email the professor? Beg the department? I don't have proof, just a vague memory and bad luck." "You start," she said firmly. "You do one thing like you've been doing." So that night, I emailed the professor, explained the situation, asked if there was anything I could do. Then I contacted the registrar's office. Then I backed up every file I owned in 3 different places because lesson learned. And after that, I sat in the dark for a while. This time, I didn't reach for Netflix, didn't hide under a blanket. I just sat. It wasn't a dramatic moment. No music swelled in the background. No sudden epiphany. Just me. Breathing. It hit me then. This wasn't the old Ethan. Old me would have used this as an excuse to quit everything. I would have dropped the app, skipped my shift at the coffee shop, told myself, "What's the point?" and spiraled. But now, I'd spent the last few weeks training for moments like this, like a mental gym rat. All those boring, quiet victories, debugging, finishing things, showing up, they'd built a kind of muscle I didn't know I had. So yeah, the fear was still there, but I wasn't folding. That weekend, while I waited to hear back from the professor, I kept working on the app, not out of distraction, but because I wanted to keep moving. I didn't want a glitch in my academic record to convince me that my progress was fake. I went to work at the coffee shop. I helped the new girl fix her steaming technique. I made another potato-shaped heart. Jazz called it abstract confidence. And then Sunday night, the professor replied. He'd reviewed the logs and confirmed that my submission did attempt to go through, but the file was corrupted. He offered a chance to resubmit the final project with a small grade penalty. It wouldn't be a perfect score, but it would count. I just stared at the email and whispered, "Thank you," not just to the professor, to the universe maybe, or to the part of myself that didn't give up. I finished the project that night, sent it in, slept like a rock. The next morning, I peeled the gold sticker off the sheet and placed it on the wall next to the others. But this one felt different, not because of the task itself, but because of what it represented. That sticker wasn't for finishing an assignment, it was for not unraveling when things got messy. Because let's be honest, life will get messy. And sometimes perseverance isn't about sprinting. It's about staying upright when everything around you shakes. You know what no one tells you about perseverance? It's not always loud. It's not this epic, charging through a wall kind of energy. Sometimes it's just sending an awkward email or raising your hand or, and this one stings, admitting you don't know what the heck you're doing. For me, that realization smacked me in the face about 3 weeks after I submitted the final project. The department approved it, my academic standing was safe, graduation was still on the table, but mentally, I was fried. I'd been pushing nonstop. Fixing code, showing up, managing school, work, life. And for the first time since I started this perseverance training, I hit a wall that wasn't just about bugs or burnout. It was doubt. Again, because even though I'd made progress, I still felt behind. People around me were launching websites, applying to big name internships, doing cool AI research. And there I was, proud of my potato heart lattes in a fake travel app to Jupiter. I started hearing that old voice again. You're behind. You're too late. You're just pretending to be serious. I hated that voice. I hated that it still had power. One night, after class, I sat in the back of the computer lab long after everyone else had left. The only light was my laptop screen, casting a ghostly glow on my half-written resume. I'd been trying to apply for internships, just one. But every time I opened the application, I froze. What if I didn't have what it takes? What if no one took me seriously? I stared at the screen until it blurred. Then I did something I almost never did. I called Professor Nevin. He picked up on the second ring. Ethan, everything all right? I hesitated. The silence on my end was probably long enough for him to think I'd butt dialed him. I need some help, I finally said. Just saying those words felt like I'd lifted a boulder off my chest. We talked for 20 minutes. I told him everything. How I'd been working on projects, rebuilding my habits, trying to grow, but how I still felt behind. He didn't interrupt. He didn't rush to fix anything. He just listened. When I finished, he cleared his throat and said something I'll never forget. Ethan, you're comparing your blooper reel to everyone else's highlight reel. That's not fair. Not to them, and definitely not to you. I almost laughed, but it feels like I should be further. Everyone feels that, he said. Even the ones who look like they've got it figured out, especially them. He offered to review my resume, help me clean up the wording, highlight the space travel planner app, yes, even the fictional flights to Europa. We even made the tagline, because imagination matters in engineering too. I like that. Later that week, I also asked Alex, yes, that Alex, to review some of my code. It wasn't easy. The guy was a genius. I was sure he'd laugh or find a dozen rookie mistakes, but instead, he said something I didn't expect. Dude, your structure's solid. A year ago, this would have crashed immediately. You're doing fine. I blinked. Wait, really? He grinned. Yeah, just fix your indentation. It looks like a raccoon attacked your keyboard. Fair enough. After that, I started asking for help more. Not in a needy way, but in a collaborative, open, human way. I asked Maya to review my app's layout flow. She suggested colors that didn't make your eyes cry. I asked Jazz at the coffee shop to test the interface. She spent 10 minutes pretending she was a space tourist with strong opinions about Martian food. Helpful? Surprisingly, yes. Even Leo jumped in. What if your app had random space facts, like Jupiter's moon has more water than Earth? Okay, Carl Sagan, I said, but actually, that's kind of awesome. Suddenly, the project wasn't just mine anymore. It was better, richer, smarter. And I realized all this time, I thought perseverance meant grinding alone, powering through, being a one-man wolf pack. But now I saw the truth. Perseverance also means asking anyway, even when it feels embarrassing, even when you think you should already know, even when your voice shakes or your code looks like a war crime. Because asking doesn't mean you're weak. It means you care enough to keep going. And the wild thing, people want to help. Most of them anyway. They're just waiting for the invitation. I'd spent years thinking I had to prove myself before I earned the right to speak up. But turns out, the real proof is in showing up even when you're unsure and being willing to learn out loud. So yeah, I kept working, kept asking, kept fixing, and slowly something shifted. I wasn't just enduring anymore. I was becoming someone who believed he could figure things out, not alone, but together. It was just a campus demo day, nothing fancy. A local event where students could showcase projects to professors, recruiters, and tech people from around the Bay Area. You didn't have to go. It wasn't graded. But if you had something cool to show, this was your moment. And for the first time in my life, I had something. Space Travel Planner was done. Okay, maybe not done. It still had quirks. A few animations lagged, the VR mockup crashed once if you tapped Saturn too fast, and the Space Weather tab looked like it was coded by a sleep-deprived raccoon. But it worked. It launched. It saved. It finished what it started. I almost didn't apply, even after all the progress, all the late nights, the help I'd asked for, the bugs I'd beaten. The voice in my head still whispered, what if it flops? What if no one gets it? But then I remembered Maya's words. You're not doing this to impress people. You're doing it to prove to yourself that you don't quit anymore. So I hit submit. 2 weeks later, I was standing behind a folding table in a crowded hall wearing a fresh hoodie, a name tag that said Ethan Tran, Space Travel Planner, and a smile that felt a little too big to be cool. Maya was next to me, straightening the poster board we made the night before with markers and a last-minute printout from Walgreens. Leo showed up with chips and declared himself creative consultant. Alex even stopped by, looked at the code for the 50th time, and gave a thumbs up like it was a Michelin review. People walked by. Some stopped, some didn't. One older woman, a retired engineer from NASA, I later found out, clicked through the app for a solid 5 minutes and said, this is charming. She even offered feedback about space trajectories. I wrote it all down like it was gold. A student from another school asked if I'd considered turning it into a real educational tool for kids. Another guy, clearly one of those startup types with expensive sneakers and too much confidence, asked, what's your monetization plan? I blinked. Joy? He gave me a blank stare and walked off. Whatever. But the best moment? That came when a dad and his daughter, maybe 11 years old, stopped at my table. She clicked around the app, watched the rocket animation, and gasped when it said, you've arrived on the moon! Her face lit up. Can I go to Mars next? She asked. I nodded. You bet. She tapped. The rocket launched. She giggled. And in that exact moment, standing in that noisy room, watching someone else enjoy what I built, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Pride. Not the loud, showy kind, the quiet kind. The kind that sits in your chest and says, hey, you did this. You stuck it out. You finished. And suddenly, it didn't matter how fancy the project was. It didn't matter that I wasn't interning at Google or coding in some cool co-working space in Palo Alto. What mattered was that I'd shown up day after day and turned an idea into something real. Something imperfect, but complete. Later that night, after the tables were packed up and the name tags peeled off, our little crew went out for burgers. We were tired. We were messy. We were happy. Maya raised her milkshake like it was a champagne glass. To Ethan, she said, for finally launching something that doesn't crash. Everyone laughed. Even me. Back home, I sat at my desk and looked at that wall of gold stars. I'd run out of space. Literally, they were creeping across the edge of my closet now. I smiled, grabbed a Sharpie, and wrote on the side, launched, just one word, but it felt huge. Before bed, I opened the app one last time, just to see it work. The countdown, the rocket, the landing page. Welcome to Mars Explorer. I stared at that message for a while, and in a weird way, it felt like it was speaking to me. I was here. not on Mars, but at a place I'd once thought was out of reach. Not because I got lucky, not because someone handed me a shortcut, because I stopped quitting every time things got hard, because I asked for help, because I stopped waiting to feel ready and hit launch anyway. It's been 4 months since demo day. 4 months since that little girl tapped launch and smiled at the moon, since Maya made a toast with a strawberry milkshake, since I realized I could actually finish something without giving up halfway. And you know what? Life didn't suddenly get easier. I still mess up. I still get overwhelmed. I still have days where I open my laptop, stare at the blinking cursor, and feel like an imposter all over again. But something's different now. It's not that I never feel like quitting. It's just that I don't quit as fast anymore. I've started calling it the pause. When things get hard, when a project stalls or a conversation gets uncomfortable or I hit that wall where everything feels pointless, I don't run away like I used to. I just pause. I take a breath. I remind myself of the robot that beeped, the app that launched, the stars on the wall. Then I decide, do I still care enough to keep going? And most of the time, the answer is yes. Not because I'm the smartest guy in the room, not because I've suddenly become fearless, but because I've learned that growth happens in the middle, in that messy, awkward space between excited and exhausted. And that middle, that's where the magic is. I used to think perseverance looked like Rocky running up the steps or some TED speaker with a perfect timeline of wins. But now I know it looks more like showing up for a class even when you feel behind. Finishing a task even when no one will see it. Asking for help when your voice shakes. Pushing through not because it's glamorous, but because you told yourself you would. One of the best things I did, I stopped chasing a finish line. I started embracing the long game. Because truth is, there's no final moment where you arrive and everything clicks forever. There's just a bunch of tiny decisions, some loud, some quiet, that stack up and shape who you're becoming. And slowly, painfully, beautifully, you become my app. It's still live. It's still quirky. I even added that fun space facts section Leo wanted. Turns out people love knowing that Neptune's winds hit over 200 miles per hour. 930 kilometers per hour. Who knew? I've submitted a few internship applications. Some went nowhere, a few led to interviews, one turned into an offer, and I said yes. Not because I felt fully ready, but because I knew I could figure things out on the way. I still work part-time at the coffee shop. I still draw hearts in foam that look like vegetables, but every time I train a new barista, I catch myself saying things like, stick with it, you'll get the hang of it. And I realize I'm not just saying that to them. I'm reminding myself, too, to the version of me from a year ago, the one sitting in bed, surrounded by half-finished projects and unfinished thoughts. I'd say this, hey, you're not broken. You're just unfinished. And that's okay. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to win right away. You just need to keep going, even when no one's watching, even when it's boring, even when it's terrifying, especially then, because perseverance isn't about being superhuman. It's about being human and showing up anyway. So if you're listening to this, sitting in your room or driving to work or just trying to get through the day, let me tell you what I wish someone had told me. You're doing better than you think. You don't need to have it all figured out right now. You just need to care enough to keep trying. So pause if you need to, cry if you have to, rant, rage, fall flat on your face. But when you're ready, stand up, take a breath, and try again. Because the truth is, the real kind of truth that sticks, you're not falling behind. You're building your own kind of strength, and it's worth it. Thanks for sticking with me. Please like, share, and subscribe to support the channel.